Hey guys, we are going to do a little bit of foundations work. We're talking today about suffixes, and you guys have learned over and over again about suffix s. And we add suffix s to nouns, words about person, place, or thing. When we add suffix s, it means there's more than one, such as dogs or horses or pencils. When we add s, it means more than one. If we add s to the end of a verb, something you do like jump, jumps, it means that one person is doing it, which is confusing, but that's kind of the way we do it. He jumps, she jumps, but we don't say jumps for when we talk about ourselves. I jump with no s. You jump. Today we're talking about adding other suffixes. So just to remember, a suffix is an ending that you put on a word that slightly changes the meaning of it. Okay, so I'm going to move this a little bit closer to you so you can see it more clearly. So we have these three suffixes, and there's actually more than these, but these are all that we're learning at this point. We have suffix s, jumps, suffix ing, jumping, and suffix ed, jumped. And it's weird because that ed doesn't sound like ed, it sounds like t. And after a soft sound like p, p is a soft sound, it's not a hard sound, the ed will sound like a t. Harder sounds change the pronunciation of the ed, and we'll see that in a minute. So it says a suffix is an ending that can be added to a base word. And remember, we talked about the base word. We scoop it. In this case, in here, they've underlined it and circled the suffix. A suffix changes the meaning of the base word. And I already mentioned that. So we're going to look at this next poster. We did on Friday, you had an assignment involving adding ing, suffix ing. When the ending ing is added to the end of a verb, it makes the verb present. That means it's happening at this moment. It's in the present. It's right now. So if I add ing to a word, in this case jumping, that means right now she's jumping up and down. That means the action is happening right now. She is jumping at 2:55 or 5 minutes of 3. She is jumping. So ing changes the meaning of the word from just being a plain old verb to being a verb that's happening, something that's happening right now. So then we look at suffix ed. Remember, this is important. You don't add ed to the end of a noun, okay? You don't say dogged. Well, actually, there's a meaning for dog when we add ed. Let me give a different. Catted. We didn't catted. So it's always a verb, something you do. In this case, today he jumps. He's doing it today. Yesterday he jumped. He already did it. It's over. It's done with. Now, again, because the English language is as crazy as it is, not every verb gets an ed added to it. For example, if we say that I want to drink my water, or my drink, I have my drink here, so I'm going to drink some. So I'm drinking, I'm done, I put it aside. We say I, not drinked, I drank my water. I drank it. So there are a lot of exceptions to adding ed to the end of a verb. But by the same token, there's a lot of occasions where we do add ed. So I want to quickly review some of those 5-letter words that we were talking about. There's many, many 5-letter words with a blend at the beginning and blend at the end, or a digraph at the beginning and a blend at the end, or a blend at the beginning and a digraph at the end. So these are some of them. So let's talk a little bit about them. These all look like nouns, like you couldn't add ed to them. But many of them are nouns and verbs. You can eat a snack, or you can snack on food. So in this case, this can be both a noun and a verb. And if it's a verb, you say, I am snacking now, or I snacked yesterday. Same with the word plant. Plant can mean something that's green, it's in a pot, it's growing. But you can do the planting. So you are planting today, you planted yesterday. Now I want you to notice something. When I said the word snacked, I did add ed. It sounds like I added t. But there are times that ed doesn't sound like ed. In fact, there's a lot of occasions where ed sometimes sounds like t and sometimes sounds just like a d, not an ed. In fact, there's only 2 occasions when you add it to the end of a word where it says ed. If you put it after a t, like in this word planted, then we say the full sound ed. If we put it after what I call the softer sound, snacked, sounds like a t, but it's still adding ed. How about this word? Let's say flash. Well, we can say that a camera has a flash, but we also know that flash can mean something bright came up. So we can say that it flashed. Sounds like a T at the end, but it's actually ed. What about skunk? Skunk is a noun, and sometimes people use it as a verb. To skunk somebody is to kind of mean like you trick them or play a joke on them. So you can say, I skunked them. And again, the ed sounds like a T. How about chest? I might not be aware of it. I have not heard of the word chest as a verb. It's not something you can do. You can't chest. How about shelf? Well, sometimes we use the word shelf to mean that we put something on the shelf. But we change the word a little bit. When we say that we put something on the shelf, we say that we shelved it. So we actually, one of these crazy things we do in the English language, if the word that we're talking about ends with F, we change it to a V. So in this case, it will be shelved, and the ed sounds like a D. Stand, another one that's an exception. We can stand, we can put our 2 feet on the ground and we can stand, or you can have the noun, the stand, where you sell lemonade or whatever. If you already were standing, I'm standing right now, and you stop doing it, we call it stood, not standed. I stood. Again, it's a crazy English language that we've got. I'm sorry about that. How about brush? Well, you can brush something. A brush is something you have, but you can also brush your hair. So if you already did it, listen to what we call it. We add the ed at the end, and it's pronounced brushed. Again, ed sounding like a T. How about the word whisk? Well, there is a tool called a whisk, but we can also whisk the item. It might be egg. Whisk the eggs. How about if we add ed to whisk? Then it's pronounced whisked. That T sound. Still adding ed, but it sounds like a T. How about blimp? Well, blimp is a noun. You see, it's that little device. And I have never heard it used as a verb. Doesn't mean it can't be. Somebody may somewhere along the way have decided to use it as a verb. But in this case, I've never heard I'm blimping or I blimped. So we're just going to think about those words. And I wanted to show you, I have a little poster here about the sound of ed. Okay? Ed gets added to the end of a word, changes the meaning of the word, the verb, to mean that already happened. The sound of ed is ed after d or t. That's the only time we say ed. Ed says ed. It also says d, spilled. We don't say spilled. I didn't spilled my milk, or she didn't spilled. And it says, very often it says t, the T sound. So here, he kicked the ball. We don't say kicked it. which is often our inclination because we see the ed here. It's just a T sound. Kicked, kicked. He kicked the ball. So one of the important things in doing this is that we have to be willing to tap out words. If we're not tapping them out, we miss things. So I really want to emphasize to you the importance of tapping out. So we're going to put this word wait a minute. You don't know what that A is going to say yet, right? It could say ah, but it could say A. If I put an I here, it doesn't say ah. Now it says A. So we have to be careful. If we do that, this says pull, and then we see the vowel digraph here, pull, plain, right? But if we only have the vowel, this says pull, an, right? Now, if this says plan, hang on a second, I'm going to try and make space. My board is a little bit on the small side here. And I add sorry guys, thought I had all my letters sorted out here. Plant, and then it ends with a T. Now, what did I say if it ends with a T? What of those sounds is it going to make? Is it going to sound like ed? Is it going to sound like d? Or is it going to sound like t? Plant. That doesn't make sense. What we get. Once again, I've got limited space for my letters. Move it over a little bit here. So this word is planted. And remember what I said, after a T, a D or a T, it's pronounced ed. Tapping it out. Planted. That's the way we would pronounce this word. So let's try another word and see what we get if we're adding ed. Oh, and I did want to mention that there are a lot of extra rules when you're adding ed to the end of a word, because when you add ed to the end of the word, sometimes you have to change the word. So honestly, if I had just put the word plan and added ed, the rule is I have to double the n. So there's two n's. It's very tricky. But right now we're going to just stick with adding an ed to the end of a 5-letter word, right? Because we don't want to get too confused yet. I have could be but if I put an E here, we would pronounce that brew. Now that's not the correct way to spell brew. Brew is actually spelled with EW. But you got to be careful when you're tapping out, that when you tap things out, you tap them correctly so that you don't misspeak and miss parts of the word. So I'm going to do I am going to do and I'm going to add this. Brushed. Did you hear the sound that ed makes there? Be careful not to say brushed. It's brushed. Brushed. So we think of the ed as saying just the sound T. Brushed. So that is the way that we pronounce words, remembering the sound of the T, or the ed, the T sound that we can make. So let's try and go through a few types of endings that we could put before this, okay? For example, what if we add ed to the end of a word that ends with b, like rub, rubbed, rubbed? The ed is going to sound like d. Okay? What about after a ck? So if we were to make the word block, like he blocked my kick. Blocked, blocked. Sounds like a T there, right? Blocked. All right, we'll try a different sound here. Now, I'm going to show you this. If we are trying to make the word blot, like you use a paper towel and you blot up the spill. If we add ed to the end of that, we would have to double the T. So it would be blotted, and the ed sounds like ed. There's not an easy way for us to learn this. It's just one of those skills that we have to develop as we read. So the more you read, the more you're on Raz Kids, the more you're picking up books and looking at them and applying these skills, the better off you'll be. Ultimately, we want you to get to the point where you're spelling the words correctly with ed and ing, and there's a bunch of rules about that as well. But for the time being, let's think in terms of these. You're going to have some tasks, or a task, I should say, involving adding ed to words. Pay close attention as you do to what the sound is that the ed is making. Does it sound like a t? Does it sound like an ed? And the only time you're going to hear ed is after t or d. And does it sound like a d? Think about that as you're trying to sound out the words. There are some, it's similar to the task you had on Friday. You're going to put in an ed at the end of all the words, and then you're going to try and put the words correctly in the sentences. I'm looking forward to seeing how you're doing. I'm very impressed with the work that you guys have been turning in. It looks like you're really, really trying to get this down, and I think that you guys will. I really do. I'm looking forward to your success and how well you do in second grade. All right, that's it for now. Take care. Have a good day.